All right, let's talk about money. But forget everything you think you know. Forget the spreadsheets, the stock tips, all of it. Today, we are diving into something way more powerful, the weird, emotional, and sometimes totally illogical psychology that really runs our financial lives. See, when it comes to building wealth, it turns out how you think is so much more important than how smart you are. And to show you what I mean, let's kick things off with a story. Okay, picture this. Mike Tyson. Back in the late 90s, right? The guy was an absolute machine in the ring, an unstoppable force. And he earned a mind-blowing amount of money, over $400 million. And he spent it. I mean, he really spent it on everything you could possibly imagine. We're talking mansions, fleets of luxury cars, even, get this, pet tigers. And yet, fast forward to 2003, he wasn't just broke. He was bankrupt. Actually, worse than broke. He was buried under $23 million of debt. How does that even happen? This whole crazy story, it just forces you to ask a really, really important question, right? How can someone earn a fortune, a literal fortune, and end up with less than nothing, while at the same time, you see other people with totally normal, modest incomes retire as millionaires? The answer, it turns out, has almost nothing to do with how smart you are. It's all about psychology. And today, we're going to break down the 5 key ideas that explain this whole thing. Okay, first up. And this one's a little bit of an uncomfortable truth. You are not 100% in control of your financial destiny. I know, we love to think that hard work is this magic formula, that it just guarantees success. But the reality is, luck and risk, they play a huge role, way bigger than most of us are willing to admit. Just take a look at the story of Bill Gates and his high school buddy, Kent Evans. I mean, these two were practically twins when it came to their passion and skill for computers. They had the same dream. But their paths went in wildly different directions because of 2 things. First, pure luck. Gates just happened to go to one of the only high schools in the world that had a computer back in the 60s. Think about that head start. And then there's risk. Kent Evans, tragically, died in a mountaineering accident before he even graduated. So you have the same skill, the same ambition, but completely different outcomes. Why? Because of forces that were totally, utterly outside of their control. And this story just shines a huge spotlight on a vital lesson, right? When we see someone succeed, we focus on their skill. We forget about the lucky breaks. And when someone fails, we zoom in on their mistakes, not the bad luck or the risks they couldn't see coming. Now, this doesn't mean you should just throw your hands up and say, it's all luck. Not at all. It just means we need to be a little more humble when we win and a little more forgiving of ourselves and others when we fail. All right, our second big idea is absolutely critical. And it's this. Getting rich and staying rich are 2 completely different sports. The skills that help you make a fortune are pretty much the polar opposite of the skills you need to keep it. See, getting rich, that's all offense. It's about taking risks. It's about being optimistic, putting yourself out there, and taking a big swing. Think about someone like Jeff Bezos quitting a perfectly good Wall Street job to sell books on this new thing called the internet. That takes some serious guts. It's all about playing offense to score points. But staying rich, that's a whole different ballgame. That's all defense. It's not about making another big score. It's about survival. It's about making sure you don't get wiped out by one catastrophic mistake. The goal completely shifts from grow to just survive. It takes humility and honestly a little bit of healthy paranoia to remember that everything you've built can disappear in a flash. I mean, look no further than the difference between Sam Bankman-Fried from FTX and Warren Buffett. It's a perfect example. SBF got rich incredibly fast by playing offense, taking massive risks. But he couldn't switch to defense. He kept playing that aggressive game, got greedy, and, well, we all know how that ended. The whole thing just imploded. Then you have Buffett. His number 1 rule, never lose money. He is the master of playing defense, of playing the survival game. And that's why he's been at the top for decades. See? Getting rich can be a sprint. Staying rich, that's a marathon. Okay, key number 3. Let's talk about saving money. But wait, not in the way you're probably thinking. This has nothing to do with skipping your morning latte. This is about completely changing why we save. The goal isn't to save up so you can buy a bigger car or a fancier TV down the road. The real goal is to buy freedom. Right here, right now. And this leads to one of my favorite concepts of all time, the FU fund. Yup, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's that pile of money you've saved up that gives you the power, the absolute freedom to say see ya to a horrible boss or a terrible landlord or any bad situation, really, without the stress of wondering how you're going to pay the bills next. Because that is what true wealth is all about. It's not the fancy car. It's control. It's having control over your time. It's having options when life, inevitably throws you a curveball. It's waking up in the morning and knowing that you are in the driver's seat of your own life, not your boss, not your bills. And let me tell you, that feeling, that's a type of wealth that no luxury item on earth can ever buy you.
And that actually leads us perfectly into our 4th point, which this one might be the most surprising of them all. We all think we know what wealth looks like, right? It's the Ferrari in the driveway, the giant mansion, the flashy Instagram vacations. But what if I told you that real, lasting wealth is the stuff you don't see?
Okay, let me tell you a quick story about a guy named Ronald Reed. Now, Ronald was about as regular a guy as you could find. He spent his whole life working as a janitor and a gas station attendant. He drove an old beat-up car, wore the same flannel shirts for years. I mean, to anyone who saw him, he was just getting by. Nothing special. Then, in 2014, he passed away at 92. And when his will was read, his estate was worth $8 million. His family, his neighbors, they were completely floored. They had no idea. So how did he do it? It's simple, really. He understood that wealth isn't about what you spend. It's what you don't spend. He just quietly and consistently invested his small savings year after year and let the magic of compounding do all the heavy lifting for him. This guy, Ronald Reed, he perfectly understood what I like to call the iceberg of wealth. What we see from other people, the spending, the nice car, the big house, that's just the tiny little tip of the iceberg sticking out of the water. That's not being rich, that's just looking rich. The real wealth, the massive, hidden part of the iceberg under the surface, that's the stuff you never see. It's the savings, the investments, the assets that are quietly growing. So Ronald Reed's success wasn't just that he saved money, it was that he stuck to his simple plan for decades. And that brings us to our 5th and final key insight today, and it's a big one. When it comes to your money, it's way more important to be reasonable than it is to be rational. See, so much financial advice treats us like we're spreadsheets, like we're robots who will always make the most logical, optimal decision. But we're not, are we? We're human, we're emotional. Think about it this way. A perfectly rational plan, the kind that looks amazing on a spreadsheet, might say you should be 100% invested in stocks to get the highest possible return. And on paper, that makes sense. But what happens in the real world when the market suddenly crashes by 40%? The rational you disappears and the panicked you takes over. A reasonable plan, on the other hand, it accounts for that fear. Maybe it means you keep some extra cash on the side. Sure, your theoretical returns might be a little lower, but who cares? It's a plan you can actually stick with when things get terrifying. So the lesson here is pretty clear, right? Stop chasing the perfect financial strategy. It doesn't exist. Instead, chase the one that's sustainable for you. The goal isn't to squeeze every last penny of return out of your investments. The goal is to build a plan that you can actually live with, one that fits your personality and lets you sleep soundly at night. Because in the end, having a good relationship with money isn't really about getting rich. It's about understanding that luck and risk are always part of the game. It's about knowing the difference between getting wealthy and staying wealthy. It's about saving for freedom, not just for more stuff. And it's about building that invisible wealth with a plan that's reasonable, not just rational. A plan that lets you sleep at night. So the real question to leave you with isn't what's the best financial plan out there. The question is, What does the plan that you can actually stick with